Good morning everybody, welcome to our SSC CGL refresher session for the English language. This would be our first session. We always make sure that whichever exam is nearby, the focus is shifted to that, right? That's the objective. So we've had quite a few sessions on SBIPO. That was a focus, and now that SSC CGL is around the corner, we're going to focus on a little bit of that. While we still continue to have sessions on SBIPO, we will also look at SSC CGL. So I'm sure if you've been a part of the SBIPO sessions, even those sessions are very much helpful for SSC CGL, right? In terms of, I understand that the difficulty level is slightly lower as compared to SBIPO, but nevertheless, we still get to learn things in terms of especially spot theatre concepts. Spot theatre concepts are like universal for me, right? Irrespective of whichever exam I'm writing. If I know the concepts and if there is an opportunity for me to learn more and practice more, then that's good, right? But other than that, with respect to fill in the blanks or reading comprehension especially, we know it's mostly a story-based theme. So we can get started without wasting any time, yeah? Let's look at our first question, which is what? Okay, he both won a medal and a scholarship. Choose the correct words to improve the bold part. The entire sentence basically is in bold, right? So we're going to look at which question type that we missed out on. So let's quickly look at it. Yeah, so in terms of sentence construction, we know what's the answer, right, for this one. Yeah, most of you have come back and said part 3, part 3, part 3, part 3, and that would be correct. This one, yeah, it's word order. So I have very basic construction. So all I need is, so I have the subject, he, right? So I have the subject, and then I need the verb, right? The next one would be the verb, which is won, right? And then, so he won. So anything that starts with he won. So immediately I can eliminate both he won because I need the subject to begin with. He won, he won. A medal and a scholarship, both is incorrect, right? He won both a medal and a scholarship is the right construction because both in fact is a determiner here, right? Which goes before the nouns. And what are my nouns? A medal and a scholarship. That's it. Okay, that's it. Perfect. So obviously option 3, let's move on. Read the parts and find out which of the 4 combination is correct and find the correct answer. So let's look at this one. This is obviously a sentence jumble. Take a small glass vial, okay, and then what do? I mean, if you look at the context itself, this is, every time it's so easy for us to kind of look at it because if you look at the starting letter, always for question types like this, I keep saying in order to save time, it's always best to keep looking at the options, right? And if you get one sequence right, you don't have to waste time and wait to get the entire sequence correct. You can just move on. So all of you unanimously agree that 3 is the right option. Let's see if that is true. So you take a small glass and then what do? So the only thing that makes logical sense is R, right? Fill it with colored water. You take it and then what do you do with it? That it is obviously referring to the small glass, right? So fill it with colored water and then the sequence continues because every one of my options starts with a different letter, so it has to be option 3, right? So take a small glass vial, fill it with colored water, then stopper it tightly, whatever that is. Stopper it tightly, place this vial inside a glass jar, close the jar tightly with a plastic cover and then make a hole in the cover. Perfect. We don't have to waste time here. It's very simple logic. I'm sure everybody got this right and nobody has a problem with this question. Can we move forward? Do you have any questions on this? It's a straightforward logical sequence, right? You take something, you do something with it, which is fill it with colored water, and then there are instructions that go by, and all I need to do is just look at my options, close my eyes and choose option 3. Okay, the next one is a story based. Story based is always easy, right? I mean, I don't think this story would be more than what to 300 words. Yeah, I'm guessing that's all it'll be, 300, 350. So it's a quick story. Those of you who missed the test, okay, I'm just going to kind of give you like a minute, just a minute, right? Because it's a story, you can easily read it. So we'll just quickly skim through. See, for SSC CGL, I would always say you don't have to apply the strategy of SBIPO, where we go to the questions, complete the vocabulary first, then identify keywords from the questions, then go to the passage and scan. All that is not required, right? Because it's a story, you just read the story and then you'll be able to answer the questions, because it's very logical, it's easy to follow, you won't waste time. In fact, you'll save time if you do this. So we're gonna go. I haven't read the story, so I want time to read. In case you have, just chill. But those of you who haven't taken the test, you can read with me. We'll read it in our mind, we'll read it fast, we'll time ourselves, you know, we won't take more than 1.5 minutes. Okay? We'll quickly read this and then we'll quickly answer the questions and then we'll move forward. Can I move to the next screen? I'm done here. So those who are reading, can you just let me know? Let's go. Okay, are you guys done reading? Can we attack the questions? Yes? Let's look at the questions, okay? The first one, which of the following are true in the context of the passage? The old woman had prepared more laddus than she had intended. The family who had recently moved into the village were fond of the old couple. The villagers were saddened by the death of the old couple and gave them a grand funeral. So, okay, just based on what you read, you can quickly answer this, right? What's your answer for this? What did you guys answer? Option 1, only 1. Option 2, 2 and 3. Option 3, 1 and 2. Option 4, all of these. Where is our clue? See, it's right here, right? Second paragraph, it says, the next day the old man purchased the ingredients from the market and they set off to the woods. Having never prepared food like this before, they ended up with 3 laddus instead of 2. So their intention was to make only 2, but because they did not have practice doing this, making laddus, so it obviously has to be option 1, right? The old woman had prepared more laddus than she had intended. The remaining 2 are not supported by the passage. It doesn't say the family who had recently moved. If the family had recently moved, they wouldn't have even had a chance to get to know the old couple, right? That is such an illogical statement. You don't even have to look at the story. Second question, which of the following can be said about the old couple? Options, they did not have any relatives to look after them in their old age. They were misers and did not spend even on keeping their house in good condition. They were not allowed to eat sweets as they were old. They were fond of animals and sometimes shared their food with stray animals. We know for a fact that 3 and 4 is absolutely incorrect. If you had to choose between 1 and 2, what would be your answer? What does the passage support? Out of 1 and 2, it's always good to look at the passage, right? The passage has to support your answer. What do you guys say? So most of you are saying option 2. Is that right? Let's go and fall back on our context. So if you look at the context, what is the context support? Where is your, can you guys tell me where did you pick your answer from? Which line in the context is supporting your answer? Yeah, it's right here, right? First paragraph. It says here, it does not say they did not have any relatives to look after them in their old age. That might be the case, but that's not specifically mentioned in the passage. It just says that they don't have children. But what is more specifically mentioned is they never spent an extra paisa on themselves, which means misers. That's the definition of a miser. They never repaired the house or cooked good food, right? So even keeping their house in good condition. There you go. That's our answer, and obviously it has to be option 2 because of that. Let's move on. I'm sure everybody got this right, and that's the beauty of this, right? It's like right there. You don't even have to worry. Why did the neighbor peep into the old couple's house? Why did the neighbor peep into the old couple's house? Let's look at our options quickly. Option 1, to learn what they were being so secretive about, to spy on them and discover where their wealth was hidden, to complain as they had cooked in the forest. No one answered when the door was knocked. What is the answer? Why did the neighbor peep into the old couple's house? What answer do you have for this? What's your answer, guys? So most of you are coming back and saying option 4. No one answered when the door was knocked. Is that correct? Oh yes, that is correct. It's right here, right? It says here, that evening, one of the neighbors knocked at the door, but the couple did not answer for fear of losing the bet. So because they did not answer, he wanted to know what's happening. Peering through the window, the man saw the couple lying on the floor with an untouched a bowl of food. So that's our answer. Fantastic. 3 marks here. Let's go. Or whatever. 6 marks if it's 2 per question. What caused the old couple's sudden longing for laddus? Options: they hadn't eaten good food for several days, they had attended their neighbor's party and enjoyed the laddus served, they saw the mouth-watering laddus being served to guests at the party, they had tasted the laddus prepared for their neighbor's son's birthday. Which one is the answer? Might be a little confusing, but then, of course, you will have a straight answer supported by the passage. What do you think? What are your answers? Okay, most of you are leaning towards 4, and I'm sure there's a direct sentence that the passage supports. Let's see that. It has to be in the first para, right? Let's see. One day a family moved into the village. It was their son's 2nd birthday and they sent 2 delicious laddus to the old couple. There you go. So whichever has neighbor's son's birthday, that has to be the point, which is option 4. There you go. That's our answer. Most of you got that right. Next one. Why did the old couple cook in the woods? 1. It was very convenient to gather firewood. 2. To avoid the risk of their hut burning down. 3. To keep the fact that they were preparing laddus a secret from their neighbors. 4. To hide the fact that they did not know how to prepare laddus from their neighbors. This is again such a logical one. You don't even have to go back to the passage. I'm sure all of you got this correct. What's the answer for this one? Why did the old couple cook in the woods? I'm sure we all know it's 3, right? I mean, you read the story and you know it has to be 3. If in case you want like a proof from the passage, it's right there in the first para, last 2 lines, right? It says, let's buy the ingredients, let's buy the ingredients to make just 2 laddus behind a hut. That way, no one will ever know. So obviously they want to keep it a secret because they want to have the laddus for themselves. You know, they don't have the means to share it with others. Remember, they are misers. They don't spend anyways. Blah blah blah. So let's move on. That's it. Just 5 questions. So the option 3, right? Let's move on. Spot the error. Of the 2 films in which he starred, I think the first is the best. What do you think is, or where do you think the error is, or do you think there is an error at all in this question? C. Why? I feel it's okay. Can somebody explain to me why part C has an error? Why do you think it has an error? Hey, there's no error, it's fine. Somebody says B, somebody says C. So I have different answers for this. So majority of you have come back and said C. What is wrong with C? Okay. What about B? Somebody said B, right? What do you want to change in B? Why? What do you want to change? But you can't say the first is the better, no? That comparison is happening in this context. I agree with you. Of the 2 films, so they're comparing the first and the second film in which he starred. I think instead of the first, because comparison happening, you don't want to use a superlative degree there. What you can do is, you could say, of the 2 films in which he starred, by the way, there's nothing wrong in part B. Let me go back to the question, right? In which, as in, we're talking about the films, which as a relative pronoun, relates to that bit. So, of the 2 films in which he starred, I think the former was the best. Right? So, either you want to maintain the general tense in the context as past tense, great. Was, changes to was, that's fine. Right? But since it's a comparison happening in the context, it's better to say former rather than first, okay? So either ways, the error is in part C. Of the 2 films in which he starred, I think the former was the best. And that would be absolutely correct. Of which, in which, there are a lot of context sentences that come like that. Maybe I can give you some example sentences. So for example, I can say the situation in which I found myself was bleak, as in the situation had no hope or whatever, right? So these are in fact expressions which we use. There's a lot of expressions. From which, to which, at which, of which, in which is another one. Okay, just gave you an example. Can you pass me those books? So and you're like, which books? The box in which the books are kept, the box in which the books are kept. So there's nothing wrong in which as an expression, as a phrase. Okay, Okay, let's go. Let's move forward. The secretary finds it difficult to cope up with her manager's hectic schedule. Where is the error? Where is the error? Is there an error here? Or everything is fine as it is? B, B, B. What's wrong with B? What do you do in B? Do you add something? Do you remove something? Do you change something? What is it? No error. A lot of you are coming back and saying, I don't think anything is wrong with this. It's fine as it is. Cope with is the right collocation. Okay, so for all those who are saying no error, just so you know, what is the meaning of cope? If I say to cope, what do you understand? I don't need this up, right? So the expression is to cope with, you cope with something, right? So somebody can have the ability to cope with means to deal with that particular situation, right? So maybe Ajit has the ability to cope very well in a difficult situation, or Uday Kumar has the ability to cope with certain conditions that are unfavorable, right? So something where you have the ability to deal with it successfully, right? I'm able to cope with it. I'm going through a stressful time, but hey, Kishore can cope with stress. He has the ability to cope with stress better. So I don't say Kishore has the ability to cope up with stress. Incorrect, right? Cope with is the collocation. Somebody pointed it out. So which means I don't need that up there in part B, and that is where the error is, right? You cannot miss out on things like this because it's a phrasal verb. To cope with is a phrasal verb. You need to keep this in mind, and it's a very common phrasal verb. But a lot of us, especially in India, say cope up with. We've heard people say that and we think it's correct. It's not. Okay, you don't cope up with something, you cope with something. There is no cope up, Sahit. I'm saying that is incorrect usage. People use that incorrectly. There is nothing called cope up. Okay, there is only cope with. Error is in part B, delete, up. Ho gaya. Next. So, if you hear anybody saying cope up with, incorrect. You only cope with something, you don't cope up with anything. The teacher promised to the boys a holiday. This is an easy one, right? As soon as you read it, you know where the error is. Where is the error? B, 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 B. Why? What do you do in B? Yes. Remove to. It's an unnecessary preposition, right? It's like, there are certain words where it doesn't follow preposition, right? Like, I ordered tea. Not I ordered with tea or I ordered to tea. I ordered for tea. Not required. So certain words are not followed by prepositions. Promised, ordered are all words like that. Error in part B, delete to. That's it. I hope everybody got this right and there's no confusion here. Yes, super. Next one. He is rich enough for buying a car. He is rich enough for buying a car. In terms of construction, you know where the error is in this one. And if somebody can give me an example sentence, identify the key phrase and give me another example sentence and tell me where the error is. Tell me what's the key phrase in this context. If somebody can tell me that. What is the key phrase in this context? He is rich enough for buying a car. Most of you are saying patsy, patsy, patsy. Okay, great. Tell me what the key phrase is. Not enough rich, rich enough. Correct. Right? Rich enough is my key phrase. Now, use this expression and give me a complete sentence, not the one that is here. That's our key phrase. So, can you give me a context with rich enough? Give me another example sentence with the same rich enough as an example. You understand what I'm asking, right? Use rich enough in another example sentence. Give me an example sentence, I'm saying. You're giving me the context that is there in the question. Give me another example. He is rich enough to help others. Yes, good. So, we know the construction. He's rich enough to use a bicycle. You might as well have said he's rich enough to use a Mercedes Benz. Why bicycle? He's rich enough to possess a house. He's rich enough to get an umbrella. He's rich enough to do something. Okay. Fantastic. I am just my mind is boggled with your creative sentences. He's rich enough to buy a medical seat. Yeah, I like that. Right? Anyway, so construction wise, we know it has to follow the infinitive form and not the gerund form, and that's why part C is where the error is. Right? So change for buying to buy. Let's go, let's move. Japan now has the male heir to the throne. So Japan now has the male heir to the throne. Where is the error? He's rich enough to tour the world. Yes. Not exaggerately, Baba, to extravagantly. Use the right choice of words. They are rich enough to spend extravagantly. He's rich enough to buy whatever he wants. Yes, yes. So some of you are saying part B has an error. Some of you are saying part C has an error. So is it A or is it, some of you are saying A has an error. So basically I have A, B, C, I have all the parts. Couple of you are saying C. Can you tell me what is the error in these parts? Part C is where the error is. What do you change? What do you change in these parts? What do you do? Okay, tell me what you want to change. That you guys are not saying. Simply you're saying instead of the on the throne. Okay, change to on. Context meaning. Basically, what does the context mean? Japan. So now there's some male person, right? The next son or whoever has become the king. He has ascended to the throne. That's what the context meaning is, if you want to understand the context meaning. So in terms of construction, to the throne is absolutely fine. There's nothing wrong in that. Right? That's how you will say it. Like if I have to give you an example sentence, I'll say Prince Charles is first in line to the British throne, which means to the throne is the right expression in fact. So there's nothing wrong in part C. Part C is absolutely fine. But we don't know who this person is specifically, right? Some guy. Japan now, and nothing is wrong with part A also. Japan now has not the, but some male heir. Who's a heir? H-E-I-R. I hope you know this, right? Next in line, right? Whoever is entitled to take up that position. So after the father, probably the, eldest son will be the person who inherits or continues the work of his father. So Japan now has a king, a son, whoever, who will take up that responsibility of managing the affairs of the kingdom to the throne. So which means the error is in part B. Okay, there you go. Nominee. It's always, so if you're confused, right, it's always somebody ascending to the throne, taking up that position. There's a shift, there's a transition happening, right? I always keep saying when there is movement, when there is shift, there is transition happening, the right preposition is always to. In terms of direction, in terms of movement, in terms of transition, in terms of shift, right? You don't have to change anything. Okay, continue and move on. Next. Okay, so that brings us to the end of spot the error. We're moving on to fill in the blanks, single blanks. Let's look at the first fill in the blank question. The dash were arrested for illegally hunting the bears. Poachers, rangers, soldiers, villagers. 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1, 1. So who are poachers? Who are rangers? The second option says rangers, right? Who are rangers? Who are these rangers? Who's a ranger? The collocation that I can quickly associate a ranger with is a park ranger, right? Or in terms of military context, right? So somebody who has armed weaponry with them, right? That guy is called a ranger. Or somebody who just manages, or somebody who maintains, it could be a specific area in a forest, or in the countryside, whatever, right? That person also is called a ranger. So they cannot be arrested for illegally hunting the bears, right? Illegal, that's our clue word in the context. Obviously, it has to be poacher. Yeah, so somebody who maintains has nothing to do with anything illegal. Illegal is always poaching, and we know what poaching is, right? Illegally killing animals, to kind of make money out of their skin or whatever, parts of their body, right? Tusks or whatever it is, if it's an elephant, and depends on different animals based on what the demand is from the consumer end, right? So poacher is a person who illegally hunts animals, on somebody else's property. It's not even their property. So that's why option 1 is the answer. So this is our answer. Dash an old legend, King Shirham lived in India. Options: in the event of, due to, according to, in reference to. Again, in terms of sentence construction, you know what can be the logical, beginning to this context. According to an old legend is the right grammatical construction. We don't have to waste time here. But Lekhan, don't even worry. This is SSC CGL questions. It will move fast anyways because, the difficulty level is not as great as SBI PO. So, unless you're really hungry and you want to go somewhere really fast. Now, let's look at option 1. In the event of. So, when do you use this construction? Can somebody give an example sentence of in the event of? And give me an example sentence. And what does it mean? When I say in the event of, what do I actually mean by that? When I say in the event of means what? If, in case this happens, in the event of this happening, right? So I cannot apply that in that context, right? In the event of an old legend, we are not talking about if something happens. We are saying this already happened. Why? Because it's referring to some old legend which is already there, right? It can be a mythology or a real story or whatever it is. So in the event of will not apply. Okay. So in the event of means if this event happens, right? That's the construction of that. Even in the event of my getting selected for SSC, I will be super happy. Okay, super. Yeah, just as an example sentence. So let's put one example sentence quickly. In the event of heavy rains, the exam will be cancelled. Okay. So that is not applicable to the given context. Due to an old legend, King Shirham lived in India. That cannot be, it's not a logical construction at all, right? Due to an old legend. Due to means what? Because of this. As a reason. This is the reason why something happened, right? So I can't say due to an old legend, the King Shirham lived in India. It doesn't make sense, right? Are you following? So you know the construction in terms of due to as well. Let's quickly look at give me an example sentence with due to. So due to brings in the meaning of because of. I can't use that. It's illogical in the context. So I can say a lot of her confusion is due to improper planning. Okay. According to, on the other hand, means this is what the old legend has to say. According to that old legend, right? King Shirham lived in India makes sense. And then again, option 4 says in reference to. I can't use that again, no? In reference to. Give me an example sentence with in reference to. Due to heavy traffic, I will be late today. See, your friends are giving you some examples. And due to heavy rain, I couldn't go to the cinema. Yes. Give me an example sentence with in reference to. Quickly. In reference to. So, just to give you an example sentence for according to, I can say, according to so and so, this is a fact. Or according to this mythology, Zeus is the sun god or whatever. Okay. In reference to. So, when I say something in reference to means I'm mentioning that, right? Mention of something. I am writing in reference to your letter dated 15th What's today's date? 15th June. Okay, got it? Let's move on. I'm calling in reference to your series on prejudice. Yes. In reference to this context, your answer is wrong. Yes. We will move to the next question, which is, if you had followed the rules, you dash disqualified. Obviously, it's a hypothetical, if conditional sentence. I just need to make sure I know what conditional this is. I just need to look at the options and choose the one which has the right construction. What conditional is this? Somebody quickly tell me and tell me what your answer is. What is the answer? Option 1 will not be, option 2 would not be, option 3 will not have been, option 4 would not have been. So I have 4, I have 3, I have 4, I have 3, I have 4, I have 3. I'm going with the current one where most of you have come back and said option 4. So which conditional is this? Third conditional. How do we know that? If plus past perfect, which is had followed. And what is the construction? It will always be would plus either have or not have plus been, right? That's my construction, and that is only available in option 4. This one, all clear. Everybody said option 4. Let's move on. Dash you leave now, now you will be late. Dash you leave now, you will be late. Dash you leave now, you will be late. Come on guys, let's move fast. Dash you leave now, you will be late. Options: until, till, unless, although. This again is an easy one. In reference to basic grammar rules, all the spot theory questions are prepared. 3, 3, 3, 3, 3. Yeah. Why? Because the context is expressing. Why 1? Okay. Always, I always have one person, 1 or 2 people coming back and giving me until in the place of unless, or vice versa. Why does that have to happen? It's a very clear differentiation, right? Until you will use only when there is a time reference. Unless you will use when there is a condition. Period. You have to get this straight. You cannot make mistakes anymore in such basic concepts, right? So until is till the time that, but there is a condition expressed here. What is the condition? If you don't leave now, you're going to be late. So better leave now, right? That's the condition. So unless you leave now, you will be late, not until. Doesn't make sense, no? Until you leave now, you will be late. Wait here until I ask you to leave. That's different, right? Why? Because I'm saying I'll give you a time, then you leave, right? And there is a time reference, you use until. Yeah, unless as it is has the negation meaning of not. This session is until 12. Yes, but the session is not until 12, as in it might exceed a little more, which it will. But that's a good example sentence for until. Let's move on. The housewife dashed the cakes burning and ran to switch off the oven, however you pronounce it. Smell, smell, smelt, smelling. This is an easy one. If you look at my options, it's all about either subject verb agreement or tense concept, right? Because I have the present tense, I have the past tense, I have the present continuous tense, and then I have singular subject, singular verb, and plural verb. So what are you going to pick? What is the context? What are you going to lean on? Yeah, easy one, right? Again, my context is saying the general tense in the sentence is past tense, boss. How do I know? Ran. She did something and then she did something else. So, and as a conjunction, I have to look at parallel structure, and I'm looking at the verb, and I know my second part of the sentence, the verb is in past tense. So obviously it has to be option 3, smelt. The housewife smelt the cakes burning and ran to switch off the oven. Okay, correctly spelt words, spellings, something that a lot of us struggle with unless we know the spelling. But if you go through tips and tricks segment, I have covered spellings there in which I have told you how to approach spelling concept, right? Either I break it down, and sometimes you cannot just rely only on pronunciation, because unfortunately words in English are borrowed from other languages, right? So autonomy, a word like that, right? I just can't go with the pronunciation of how it's pronounced. I can't put the spelling, because if I go with spelling, it'll be O-T-O, but that's not how it starts. It starts with A-U, O. So it's always the vowel sound, which means you need to be very, very clear with what your vowel sounds are. But what I do is, I go with syllable breakup. That's my go-to approach for spellings. I go with syllable breakup, and that's exactly what we're going to do for all these words. Okay, we have 5 words. Let's quickly look at it. Some words you already may know the spelling, yeah, but let's look at the first one, which is expeditious. Expeditious, that's how it's pronounced. If you had to break the word, right, into syllables, what is a syllable? If you don't know that, go to the tips and tricks segment. I've covered that in detail. Get to know your basics, right? So what's a syllable? A syllable is one vowel sound. Yeah? Break it. Expeditious. Expeditious. So if I have to break it, I will say expeditious. I have 4 syllables here, right? It's expeditious, not expeditious, and not expeditious. So 1 and 3 out, right? And the shious is sh, as in T-I-O. So only option 4 is correct. Expeditious. Okay, so I will always, my go-to approach for the most part is syllable breakup, and that's how I identify what the right spelling is. Even if I know the word and if I get confused, that's my approach, and I would encourage you to do the same. Okay, the next word is renaissance. 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 It's a French word, and if you have no clue about this word, let's break it down first. Renaissance. Renaissance. So there's double S there, okay, and sans. I think sans in French means without, but obviously that has no connection with the word here. Renaissance. What's Renaissance? Renaissance is actually like a revival, like a rebirth. Okay. So there you go. That is so anything that has single S out, which is option 2 and option 3, right? And it's S-A-N-C, it's not renaissance, it's renaissance. That's how it's pronounced. So the answer is option 1. Encyclopedia is not a very difficult word. I'm assuming all of you know this word, so you should get the spelling correct. And if I have to break it down, I will say yeah, that's a lot of syllables. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 syllable word this is. Encyclopedia, right? How do I, now some of you might wonder, like, okay, how do I break it as per syllables? Say it out loud. Every time you say the word, one vowel sound is one syllable. N, A, Psy, 2, right? I, encyclo, that's another syllable. It brings in the vowel sound of O, right? Encyclope, P, A, that's another syllable. D, that's another syllable. Encyclopedia, that's another syllable, right? So, which means you have to be very thorough with your vowel sounds, right? Your syllables, you need to be super efficient with that, so that you don't make any mistakes in breaking those syllables, those vowel sound units. Okay, so obviously, which is the answer? Option 1, is it? No, it has PI instead of PE. It's option 4. So somebody gave me the options 4, 1 and 4, which is correct. The next one is ambiguous. We know this word. Ambiguous means it's something that is not unclear, right? Something that is not clear. And if I have to break this up into syllables, let's break it up. Ambiguous. And the only thing that gives me that correct spelling is option 1, not ambiguous. ambiguous or ambiguous, no. Okay, the last one is camouflage. This is another word that I'm assuming all of you know, right? To camouflage. A good example is always the chameleon. We know that. So let's break down camouflage into syllables. It's always cam, o, flage. 3-syllable word, right? There's a U there and the right spelling is option 2. So I understand, you know, syllables can be, spellings can be tricky because for the most part you either know it or you don't know it, period, right? Because sometimes if I don't have good knowledge about, my vowel sound units, then there is a tendency for me to get it wrong, right? So even if I'm familiar with the word and I'm not too sure about the spelling and I take the syllable breakup approach, if my vowel sounds, if I don't know to get that correctly, distinguish that correctly in that word, I will still end up choosing an incorrect spelling. Yeah. So I know, you know, it would have been very helpful if in our education system, especially in the Indian education system, if they would have included, instead of, you know, just A, B, C, D, if they had included stress on vowel sounds, like, you know, giving importance to pronunciation of how A can appear as a vowel sound, a, right, like that would have been helpful for us. I think lots of these Montessori schools right now are adopting that method, which is a good thing, right? That's how you're supposed to learn. Obviously we are kind of imitating the West, which is the right thing to do, at least in terms of education. So maybe your kids will learn the right way. At least they'll get their basics correct. Okay, let's move. Yeah, got it? Choose the word opposite in meaning to the given word. So we're looking at synonym, antonym. Again, you know, if these words, if I know the words, great. If I don't know the words, then I have to look at other, like, you know, fall back on prefixes, suffixes, common prefixes, suffixes, root words, things like that. Endorse. Do you know this word? Is it a new word? Endorse. What is to endorse? Endorse means the most immediate collocation that I can associate endorse with is a product, right? You endorse a product. So you buy a toothpaste and you really like that toothpaste, and you're literally advertising that toothpaste to your friends and your family and everybody, right? You have a kid and there's this new toothpaste in town and it's really good. Like, even if the child consumes it by mistake, nothing will happen to the child. It's very safe for the child. You'd want to advertise it, right? Endorse that product to your friends. Hey, you know what? There's this new toothpaste in the market for kids. You need to buy that. It's really good. Blah blah blah. So endorse is to, you're using a particular product and you're sharing that experience and you're advertising it to people. So basically you're making it public, you know, to support or promote. So what is the, and we're looking for antonyms. So what's the antonym of endorse? Agree, condemn, accept, exceed. What do you think? The options are pretty easy, no? Not very difficult words at all. I'm sure everybody understands all of the options here. And what are your answers? Okay, so most of you have come back and said option 2, condemn, which will be the right answer. Condemn means disapprove, obviously. You're not approving, but you're disapproving, opposing, yes. So that's our answer. Momentous, momentous. What's the meaning of momentous? Obviously, we know this is a adjective. And what does it mean? Right? Again, immediately associated with collocations. I can have a momentous decision, right? Like it's an important decision that I made, or I can have a momentous. There can be a momentous news, right? Something extremely important, or something that has an effect on future events, right? That's the meaning of momentous. So now that we have an idea of what momentous is all about, which is nothing but very important, especially because of some effect that it is going to have in the future events. What are my options? Options are unlikely, unparalleled, unlimited, unimportant. Easy one, no? It has to be option 4, unimportant. Momentum means significant, opposite of that is unimportant. Okay, great. Pragmatic, this is another word I'm sure a lot of you know. I'm assuming it's not a new word, okay, and you know this word. Something pragmatic is something very practical, very realistic, yeah. It doesn't follow theory, it follows practical methods, ideas or rules, right? Something that is tangible. That's pragmatic. What are my options? Realistic is a synonym. Fictitious, idealistic, factual. Out of the factual also is a synonym, right? Because pragmatic is practical, which means based on facts. So these are all synonyms. Fiction or idealistic. What is the fictitious or idealistic? What is your answer for the last one? Pragmatic. Basically, what is the opposite of realistic? That should be your answer, right? If realistic is a synonym of pragmatic, most of you are coming back and saying option 2. So what is the difference between fictitious and idealistic is my next question then, because some of you are toggling between option 2 and 3. So we just said pragmatic is something realistic, something tangible, something based on practical methods, rather than it is based on not unknown ideas or whatever, right? It is based on theory. So fictitious is what? Fiction stories, something that's invented, right? Not true, not existing. That's fiction. But what about idealistic? That's the third option, right? Idealistic. What would you say? Who's an idealistic person? An idealistic is someone who believes that something good will happen. Like a person who values principles above practical behavior. Are you following? So it's like a pragmatic person is probably a realist because he believes in theory, whereas an idealistic person is somebody who does not believe in practical behavior, right? He values his viewpoint is more ideal. So I can say when I was young and idealistic, I believed it was possible to change the world, right? I'm not basing it on any practical means or a theory or something. I was just idealistic. I just believed, it's like a principle that I wanted to believe in. Fiction is different. Fiction is you're inventing something out of nothing. So between fictitious and idealistic, which will you pick as a antonym for pragmatic? Option 3 is a much closer option. Okay, are you following? You getting the difference, right? I just gave you the difference. So an idealism is not based on practical methods, but it's just a principle that I want to believe in. I believe this is possible. I am idealistic. There's no theory, there's no facts, there's nothing. I believe I can change the world. That's being idealistic, right? But pragmatic is somebody who is realistic. Show me facts, boss. Show me theory. Yeah, but fiction is different. Fiction is you're inventing something when there is nothing. You're making it up, story. Okay, so our answer is option 3. That's it. See, got over. That was the end of the session. SSC CGL, you have enough time today to prepare for the next session, which is at 2 o'clock. Yeah. Okay, super. We're done, guys. We're done. So just a quick note to leave before you take off. 2 out of 3 you got correct. That's fine. So you know what your opportunity areas are. Please use these tests as a stepping stone to explore your own opportunity areas and then work on that, right? If phrasal verbs is an issue, spend more time on that. If some other concept, if spot theater is a problematic area, spend more time on that. Okay? Chalo. I hope you guys are taking these tests without fail on a daily basis, and then it makes more sense for you to relate to it. Yeah. See you guys. Bye bye.